Hello everyone, and thank you for watching my Plan With Me video. I'm Lisa Ravenclaw, and today I'll be doing my yearly spread for 2019. As you can see, I'm using the Leuchtturm 1917, the Leuchtturm 1917 bullet journal, and I've been using it for quite a while now. I think its quality is quite good, and I enjoy the layout of it, especially the little pocket at the back. It's quite convenient, and it has a dotted grid as hardcover, black hardcover, which is quite useful since it has to endure quite a lot when I carry it around. And it is a 240 pages, so it also has enough space for me to do my planning without running out of space, so that's quite useful as well. So I have decided that for this year I'm going to do a Ravenclaw themed spread for the yearly overview, simply because I want 2019 to be a year of learning and a year of growth and a year of finding out how to become the best version of myself and how to let my creativity and my intuition guide me through this development. So I'm going to use my brush pens, and you can use any kind of Koki or felted pen really, and I'm going to color plastic sleeve simply to get the color onto some material, and it gives it a nice aquarelle effect, as you'll see once I print it onto the journal. So I'm using the colors blue for Ravenclaw. You can obviously use whichever colors you're most comfortable with, or if you decide to go for a Harry Potter house, you can use one of those colors. I think it's a very cute idea. And simply spread out the colors over the plastic sleeves in a way that looks appealing to you. So that's what I'm doing right now, and it's quite a simple task really. There's nothing much that can go wrong. The more difficult task is taking the plastic sleeve and transferring the color onto the pages of the bullet journal. So I just flipped it upside down and made sure that the ink doesn't go through the page or stain my other pages. So it's quite a skill to master, but you'll get the hang of it. I did, and I'm not the most artistic person, I can promise you that. And then I just rubbed in the ink a little bit so it would spread more evenly to give it a more aesthetic image, to not have like little bulbs of ink floating around everywhere, and pulled off the plastic sleeve. So it's quite a nice technique if you don't want to spend too much time on it. When I was done with that, I got all my black pens together, my fountain pen, my black artist pens, and my Muji gel ink pen, and I started drawing the Ravenclaw sigil, which I quite enjoyed because with all the lines and the black and white and the colouring in, I actually managed to make it look quite fancy. And I really like the way it turned out. I used a stencil from the internet and simply traced the logo, and it was super easy, so literally anyone could have done that, and coloured in some of the spaces, others are left blank, and it turned out really nice. So you can do this with any sketch, any vector, any logo, and usually it will turn out looking quite alright. And I used a simplistic version of it because I know there are other versions as well, but this one worked quite well with the theme I was going with. So I made it look kind of almost medieval, and wrote Ravenclaw into the little banner to make it look more authentic, and then simply used the very same pattern to draw a circle in which I would write the year 2019. So what I did was I started drawing those little almost horns sticking out. At least that's what it ended up looking. I tried to make it the little branches of the end of the wreath, but it didn't. Well, I'm not quite happy with how it turned out. So if I did it again, I'd just leave it as a circle and not have those little pointy ends sticking out, even though I'm sure Arya from Game of Thrones would be fascinated by it. I wasn't, but I decided that this year I wouldn't be too much of a perfectionist, so I didn't restart, which I would have done just a few months ago. So I'm really trying to battle my perfectionism, and in the end I suppose it looked alright. I'm going to settle for alright. And I used a typewriter font to write 2019, which I think looked really nice. I don't know why, I'm really into those typewriter fonts lately. It just looks so much fancier and quite aesthetic as well. So I'm quite happy with the way the font turned out. And I actually had to remind myself as I was writing not to write 2018. I promise you I'm going to make that mistake so many times in the days to come. So if you ever do see a bullet journal entry with 2018 next year, you'll know that's me. But all in all, and I went over the numbers with my black pen just to make it a bit bolder, to make it stand out a bit more. Although the thin one actually looked quite nice as well, but I just wanted to give the font some texture, which I think I managed to do quite well. I'm especially quite happy with how the 9 turned out, but all in all I think I managed to do it quite nicely. And then, since I still had a bit of leftover space at the bottom of the page, I decided to write one of my favorite quotes. They're from, I think the author was William Wordsworth, or Wordsmith. I don't quite remember. I will find out and write his name in the description. And the poem is called Invictus. So the quote goes, "I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul," which is a mantra that I will try to live by in the year to come. And then for my next page, I did one of my year in a nutshell spreads. So basically what I did is I did a miniature version of each and every month and wrote it on one page. So all the days and little miniature calendars. So I went with the same theme, the same watercolor theme as I did on the previous page, and I also used the same method. Some brush pens on a plastic sleeve, and then a bit of water sprayed on it, and then I transferred the ink to my bullet journal, waited for that to dry. You can see I'm cutting off some of the page to just create a 2019 label, which will make it a whole lot easier to flip back to the beginning of the year once it's a bit later. And I decided to make the boxes, the parts in which I write the days of the week, black boxes, because I've seen a lot of bullet journal spreaders do that, and I actually really adore the way it looks. I think it looks incredibly amazing. So to all those people who showed me this new skill, thank you, and maybe you'll find it as amazing as I do. And that's what I just continued doing for the entire page, and I just wrote the first 3 letters of the month on top of the month. What you always have to be careful about when you do these spreads is that you copy your spreads from a calendar which starts at the day of the week that you start as well, because I have made numerous mistakes copying the days of a calendar that has their weeks start on a Sunday, whereas my weeks start on a Monday. So that's definitely one thing you have to watch out for. And also, it's quite easy to make mistakes in those spreads because you have to write so many numbers and so many dates, and you have to get them correct. So it's almost impossible to get the spacing right and to get the numbers right. So don't freak out if you make a mistake. It's perfectly human. You can just use white out or a white gel ink pen to cover up your mistake, or you can just leave it, because usually people won't notice, and neither will you. For the heading of the spread, I decided to stick to my typewriter font, and I just copied the style I did on my first page and wrote 2019 with a line on each side. So there's nothing fancy there, but I think it's nice to stick to one theme as you go along. So that's what I tried to do. I don't know if I succeeded. And on the next 2 pages, I had my year at a glance spreads. So I find those spreads incredibly useful because you can just plan long term, which you can't really do in a bullet journal because it's more of a weekly or even month to month journal. So that's where I put all the dates that I need to know a long time in advance. So those would be birthdays or exams, or even public holidays. So you can just choose the dates that are important to you and that you want to remember, and you can write them in these spreads. And again, you can use whatever layout you're most comfortable with. I did a horizontal layout, as you can see, but vertical layouts work just as well. So you do you, my friend. So it's quite tedious to do the spread as well. That's why I'm gonna skip the next spread, because it's basically the same, and go to one of my newer ideas, which is basically just a bucket list of what I want to do this year. So for me, I chose to list 100 things that I wanted to do in the next 365 days. Once again, this is super personal, so you'll have to choose whatever works for you. I took some of the things from my old bucket list, which I can link to you below. I have it written on my Tumblr page, and just do some things you wanted to do for ages and haven't gotten around to doing, or do inspirational things you've dreamed about doing but never came around to doing. So you can just make a list of whatever you want to do to have a year that you can look back to. You can say, wow, that was such an amazing year. And well, my next spread is basically just my letter to my future self. And I do that every year because it's quite a cute idea to just look back and see what position you were in back then, and to see how far you have come. Again, this is something that you have to do from your gut feeling, I'm going to say, because it's something that is about you and only about you and no one else. So I can't really help you there. But for my layout, I just decided to do a quote on the left hand side and have my letter on the right hand side. And once again, I wanted to stick to my blue Ravenclaw aquarelle theme, so that's what I did. And for my letter, I can the beginning goes something like this. Dear future self, I am writing to you from the depth of 2018, and I hope that my letter finds you well. This year has had its ups and downs, but significantly more peaks than valleys, and I've become a stronger person from the climb. And as you can see, I'm kind of talking to myself as a friend and telling my story. So you can formulate it as whichever way you want to, but that's just my method. And yeah, maybe you can use my style to inspire you. On the left hand side, you can see I taped some of the spaces with washi tape so that the ink wouldn't reach it. So those are the spaces that I'm going to fill with my writing, and I'm going to use one of my favorite quotes from The Book Thief. And it's quite connected to writing because I really do enjoy writing. And it's when she came to write her story, she would wonder exactly when the books and the words started to mean not just something, but everything. And I think it's just such a beautiful quote to live by and to write by, because sometimes the words can have a very deep meaning, not just because they're words, but because they mean so much to you. And as you can see, I'm going over it with my black pen again, because my brush pen was more of a dark grey than the black, and I get super annoyed when black pens that are supposed to be black aren't really black. So you can see I'm kind of rewriting the entire quote, but I'm quite happy with how it turned out and how the general spread turned out. And I hope that you have been inspired, and I'd love to see your versions, and I hope you enjoyed my video. Bye!